You're losing drivers every month, and most of the time, it's not pay. It's because no one answered the phone. When drivers start looking, they move fast. 65% find a job in less than a month. And their first move? It's not applying. It's not browsing. 43% pick up the phone and call. And when they call, they expect an answer. But here's what actually happens. The phone rings and no one picks up. 37% move on immediately. No follow-up, no second chance. You might think they'll call back. They won't. 74% won't call more than twice. Miss the first call, you've got one shot left. Miss the second, they're working for someone else. Even if you do answer, long holds will kill you. 46% hang up if it takes too long. They don't wait, they call the next fleet. And when drivers drop off during the process, the number one reason isn't the menu or the transfers. It's simple. No one answered the phone. While everyone's focused on lead volume, ads, cost per lead, the real breakdown happens the moment the phone rings. So what should happen when a driver calls and no one is available? That's exactly what we're breaking down in today's live chat. What drivers actually do, where most fleets lose them, and what to fix immediately. If you're responsible for hiring drivers, this one's for you.
Welcome back to Digging Deeper, everybody. Hopefully that wasn't too loud. I always end up louder than what I tested at. The live chat is open. Let's get it going. I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to you real quick, Kyle. Just kind of a blanket statement, just an over-the-top blanket statement. How important is kind of your phone call strategy to recruiting truck drivers?
Well, I think you have to just kind of start with the numbers. About half of all leads for every campaign that we run are inbound phone calls. And so that, in my opinion, is the highest type of intent that you're going to get in our industry, where they're stopping what they're doing, they're taking action, and you can connect with them right there. So if you don't kind of cater to that process, think about that process, build your business around that process and activity, and really put some time into it, then you can leave a whole lot of hires, a lot of money on the table, a lot of wasted money gets burnt. So I think it's not just about volume.
Right.
I think there's a lot more to the idea of calls, what happens when, where, with your team, technology, follow-ups, and things like that. And when you can kind of stop for a second, do a little bit of research, like you kind of opened with here today, some more research we've got, and look at it like, oh, wow, there's 2 or 3 things I could do that aren't real complicated that can make a big impact, then I think it's really, really worthwhile.
I'm going to queue up Kyle with the next question, but go ahead in the chat, tell us, and I've got some polls we're going to run here in just a second, but go ahead in the chat, tell us what you think. How important is your phone call strategy to recruiting drivers? How many drivers are you missing? And with that idea, Kyle, we see here 43% of drivers say their first instinct when they're serious about a fleet, their first instinct is call. So nearly half. I bet in that other half that say that's not the first thing, a call's coming at some point in the process.
You got to talk to somebody to hire them.
And then the other thing is that, 65%, they're going to find a job within a month. So we're creating this idea of, hey, speed is paramount. Speed is paramount. And what you do with that first phone call is really important in how much you hire drivers. So with that being said, how much do you think fleets are losing when it comes to hiring drivers just based off of phone calls missed?
So, I mean, the thing that came to mind with your first point is you're on the clock when that driver makes the phone call. As a fleet, you're on the clock you've only got a certain amount of time you're in the game. And so in terms of what you're missing, we talked to some fleets, they miss 13% of their call. They're really good at answering the phone. Only 13% get missed or truly unanswered over the course of a month. That's outstanding. We talked to some other fleets and they're like, yeah, we miss half. We talked to another fleet one time, I'll never forget. They said, we miss about 90% of our inbound calls. Now, they had too many, they were spending too much, had a lot of things wrong. But if you think about someone who's looking for a job, the clock is ticking and you don't talk to them, you're done.
Right now, we have our live poll on. 3 people say more than 50% of their calls reach a live recruiter, which is good.
Yeah.
How many would you say, what should be kind of the goal for a fleet? What's a good goal for what's a percentage of calls that should reach a live recruiter? Or maybe we say, what percentage of your calls is decent to miss?
I think you're never going to get to absolute zero. So you're never going to be able to get 100% of your calls answered.
Yep.
So taking that into effect, you kind of also have to take it a step further in that 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, unless you have night and weekend coverage.
Right.
But 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, if you're missing more than around 25% of your daily working hour calls, I think you have a pretty significant problem.
Right. Yeah. And what the stats show, which we saw, and in case anyone was wondering, all these stats are coming from our latest research called the Phone Problems Destroying Your Driver Recruiting. What we did is we surveyed just under 400 drivers and just asked them, like, what happens when you call and no one answers? How does that affect? Are you likely to call back again? How long are you willing to wait on hold? What happens if you get to a voicemail? How quickly do you move on to another fleet? So what a lot of the stuff we're doing is referencing that sort of thing. That is going to be that. I don't know if we have a link for that. We putting up a link. All right. We're working on it right now. We're about to put a link up for that. I'm gonna go ahead and take this.
And I just want to tangent moments. One of the more insightful research pieces that I've seen from your team in a while. So shout out to Randall Reilly Marketing for the questions, the research, and what we got back from drivers. This research you're going to get your hands on will give you kind of those 2 or 3 opportunities if you look at your process that can make a serious impact. And you're going to see why in that research those kind of elements are so critical.
All right, let's bring up another point. So we talk about kind of, I like the stipulation because you and I have dug into it before when we look at our call disposition report, more AI type stuff that we offer that kind of looks at not just how many missed calls, but then kind of puts them all into different buckets so you can dig in and find where the disconnect is. There's a whole slew of calls that never, I like the stipulation of like, did they reach a live recruiter versus answered and unanswered?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of calls that kind of show it's answered where it gets to the routing system. I'm so-and-so, and then it gets routed to a driver or to a recruiter, sorry. And then the voicemail picks it up because that guy's not there. Maybe they leave a voicemail. Probably don't leave a voicemail. On average, how many times are they leaving a voicemail?
I know it's way less than half. I know we've seen, it kind of depends on the fleet. We've seen single digits leaving a voicemail. Yeah. We've seen 50, 60% leaving a voicemail. So best case scenario, 40% worst case, 40% are getting to voicemail and moving on.
Yeah.
It could be 75% of the people calling in using your phone tech and just bailing on you,
right?
Which is alarming.
Yep. Yeah. And so there's a whole, bucket of calls where it's like technically answered, but didn't actually talk to a live recruiter. So in that case, let's put you're the director of recruiting at a fleet.
Put that hat on real quick.
How effective is voicemail? What are kind of the key, let's just say what needs to happen for voicemail to be effective?
The first thing is don't make the driver wait 3, 4, 5 minutes before voicemail picks up.
Right.
I think the stat is you need 3 rings and go ahead and have your voicemail message right then. We did a study, this is years ago, so I'm going to quote an archive stat. If the message was longer than about 20 seconds, that's where we saw a degradation in people leaving a voicemail. So it needs to be relatively brief and direct. And then just allow them to leave the message. And if they want to talk for a minute and a half, they may start wandering with what they want to communicate to a recruiter. Don't talk to your IT team. Don't let them limit it to like 30 seconds and then automatically hang up on the driver. So just a couple of key things with your voicemail. And then see if your system can email you when a voicemail is left. We've talked to some people where that's been really helpful, but make sure the voicemails are answered, worked like a lead, and worked in a timely fashion. As quick as your team can get back to them, get back in touch with it.
That brings up a good point. There's some challenges there because I know most everybody has, an ATS that is kind of their lead management system in a way. And you're talking about working a voicemail as a lead. Aren't there some challenges in getting a call, a missed call really, but even a voicemail, taking that and turning that into a lead in your ATS that becomes part of your like normal recruiting workflow?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of places for mistakes and lags to happen when you're relying on a person, a human. It's no fault; it's just humanity to listen to the message, write down the information or key it in, hit the submit button, and then make the phone call. So you've really got to be diligent with that. I don't want to say you need to be authoritative, but you need to look at that particular process and make sure if driver Kyle leaves a voicemail at 2:00 on a Saturday,
Right.
and you don't put him in your ATS, at 8:05 Monday morning, he could just, be ether in the wind, gone. So you really have to have a kind of a defined process, a consistent process of every inbound driver, that bit of information you get it into your ATS. That's absolutely critical.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about, I think one thing that is, I'm going to close this poll here.
On to the next one.
Yeah. So I think another thing that we talk about is drivers being put on hold are the IVR, and how quickly you can lose people. You know, how quickly you can lose people to IVRs. What would you say is kind of your suggestion on like using an IVR? What are some pitfalls that you've seen around IVRs and how they're how it helps you lose drivers?
Yeah, your IVR was great in the 90s, and I'll say the 2000s. Nowadays, with every driver having a phone in their hand, they want to talk to a person now. And I would say that's probably a reflection of society. If you have a problem with your bank account, you don't want to call and have to press the right number for the right department. You want to call and kind of get moving towards a solution.
Right.
So what we're seeing with some people is the recruiting option to the main number that's on the website is buried, like it's the 7th option. Or they have a recruiting number and it's press 1 to reach a recruiter. I'm like, I just called recruiting. I don't want to have to also press 1 to reach the department that you just gave me the number to call. So if you want drivers to complete that call activity with your business, get that option higher in the IVR phone tree,
right?
1, 2, or 3, somewhere in there. That's really quick.
Yeah, nothing lower than 3.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's critical to the business.
Yeah, preferably 1 or 2, but nothing lower than 3.
Yeah. And then if you have a recruiting number, no phone tree. Like, go ahead and get that call connected to a person, or if it's after hours or something like that, to some other system so the driver can be satisfied.
All right. So speaking of the phone tree idea, this is one thing you and I have talked a lot when we, because we go into the call disposition report and we say, okay, this call shows answered. Let's see what happens. And you get, they go to maybe an automated phone menu. They say, okay, yeah, you're assigned to this recruiter. They forward them to a recruiter.
Ooh.
And then that recruiter was on lunch then, or that recruiter was busy on another call then. And so they go to voicemail. What should people do? What would you recommend people do in that situation? Is it just kind of the nature of the beast, or is it, would you say there's a better way to handle that?
I would say it's complicated. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
So we've talked to different fleets where any recruiter can help any driver at any time. We've talked to other fleets where it's much more siloed. If you're already in process and the call comes into me, but Josh is your recruiter, I'm going to transfer over there and then I'm out. And there's a chance, again, that could be your second time calling back and you're gone.
Right.
And we see that happen. So I think it kind of has to be somewhere in between. I think your recruiters have to be diligent. If I transfer this driver away, is Josh on the phone? Is Josh at his desk? And if not, I can see you need to go ahead and jump in the seat for Josh and help him out, because you're really helping the driver and you're really helping your department and your team. So I think that's sort of its own beast in and of itself that's unique to each fleet as well. You may not necessarily have the staff, you might not necessarily have the time, but the fewer times you transfer, the fewer times you cast a driver into the opportunity to end up in voicemail, the more you can attack the idea of connecting with the driver with a conversation, no matter what, the better your conversion ratio and the lower your overall cost per hire is going to be as a team.
It does seem like we have an above average audience in attendance today, because we got not a lot of votes, but 100% of the people, 3 that voted, say that if the recruiter that is assigned isn't available, it automatically goes to whoever is available.
Okay.
So that's good.
That's good.
That's good.
Then a lot of people are doing it better than some of the other people. And part of that depends on your, I think, head count. If you're a 1 or 2 person team, that can be really challenging. If you've got a larger team, you may not be able to see that person or determine if they're available, but you absolutely need to treat that inbound call, whether they're in process or brand new, like they have the opportunity to leave your process if you transfer them.
Okay.
Because if you transfer them away, it's real easy for them to hang up and be gone forever.
Right. The next point I want to talk about is there's a fair amount of leads. I don't know if you have stats on it, of leads and phone calls that come in after hours or on weekends. Do you have that stat by any chance?
That varies by a number of things. We do our best to produce leads for our clients in the business hours that align to their operations. Other people say just run it and I'll get everything I can. That's fine too.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get organic calls, whether it's from a Craigslist number, whether it's from a posting on Indeed or the number on your website. You're going to get calls at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Saturday, 7 a.m. on a Sunday, 2 a.m. on a Tuesday when you don't have anybody there. It's just going to happen. For most fleets, if you step back and if I take the full month and just plot it on a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, generally it's somewhere between 20 to 15% ish, somewhere in that number, are after hours when you look at the entire month.
Okay.
Which is a huge opportunity.
So I just launched a poll. It says, how do you handle weekend and after hour coverage? Everybody vote on it. So far, we have one person, I believe, that has said, let's see here. Let me see. I see it there. All right. Yeah. So we have 3 votes so far. One, they have the weekend phone that we talked about. Yep. That's one way to do it. And then we have 75% of the audience call the voicemails back on Monday. 0% have a recruiter that wants to be on call on the weekends. And then 0% so far route all calls to an AI agent. So what would be, of these 4 options, what would be your recommended? We now have we're getting some more votes here. 80% call the voicemails back on Monday.
I think the first thing we need to consider is some of the stats you let off with in the intro.
Right.
That driver is only going to call you twice.
70-foot, like the 2 or under is 74% of drivers.
Right.
Twice.
Top. That's it.
Yeah.
And gone.
Yeah.
Which means they are working for somebody else after phone call number 2.
Right.
And so if the first one's on Saturday, you stand a chance of getting that person in your process and hired if you just simply get them engaged. And so if you wait until Monday, they could be talking to that fleet that has all calls forwarded to a recruiter's cell phone. Mm-hmm. They could be talking to a fleet that use an AI agent to catch that call at 2:00 on a Saturday. That call was answered and turned into a lead. And so there are other options other than, hey, we're just going to hope for the best on the weekend and come back on Monday. There's better options available now.
Right. So let's go ahead, because I try to get these in and out, find people in and out in about 30 minutes. So what are some of those other options that there are some options that we don't want to hide the ball here. Obviously we offer an option here that allows you to forward all calls to an AI agent. What are and we've been offering this since September, essentially.
Yep.
And so, and you're the architect of this. You've seen a lot of clients. You've worked with a lot of clients. What have been the benefits of that?
Just the sheer number of leads that are coming in after hours that are ending up in the ATS. Right. That's been the biggest surprising stat for us, is around 50 to 60% of those missed calls, which otherwise would just be missed.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a voicemail. 50 to 60% end up turning into a lead, and it's in their ATS. Mm-hmm. So Monday morning, it's not a voicemail, it's a lead that they can work.
Right.
The other surprising stat has been, and it's somewhere, and it depended on the fleet, because we asked around, 30 to 70% of the names were names those fleets had never seen before.
Oh wow!
And
they weren't in the system.
They had never gotten a short form. They'd never gotten a full application. There'd never been a record. And these are people that had 10 and 13 years worth of apps in their ATS.
Wow!
So what that told us is there's sort of this population of drivers that are calling, not leaving a voicemail that you have no record of. Mm-hmm. Now we have a solution to engage them, get them into your process, and it's actually taking that organic call. The driver that saw the logo on the truck, Googled your name, went to your homepage, called the recruiting number on a Saturday or 7:00 at night because he's held over at some distribution center somewhere and he's mad. Mm-hmm. Now that caller is engaged. We have a wonderful experience. It's knowledgeable. Driver can ask questions, gets live, actual accurate answers. And the conversion rates and the satisfaction rates among the callers has been just, really, really impressive. So all that to say, you now have a solution that can work after hours and weekends and on holidays and things like that, that converts the lead and puts it into your ATS too.
One thing I was thinking about is there was one client, I think we did a case study with them, and not only were they getting the benefit of, all these missed calls reclaimed, it was also doing the job of when calls came in that, were not recruiting related, but somehow they ended up in recruiting.
Oh my gosh, right.
It was able to route those to the right place so that recruiters weren't going, oh, I just got this missed call from this guy. I'm gonna call him back. And it was like, oh, it's just someone looking for dispatch or something
safety,
like,
right.
Or safety or something like that. And so that really, the thing is I think when people hear AI agent, sometimes they go, oh, is that I don't want a replacement for my recruiters. This is not.
No.
This just makes your recruiters, it makes their outbound strategy so much more effective. And it recaptures a lot of recaptures. Take two.
Recaptures.
The mask is falling. I'm not very good at this. Recaptures a lot of wasted time that would have been spent chasing down bad leads.
That's right. So that's a good point. Even if you have something during the day, how many calls do recruiters get that they transfer to another department?
Right.
I mean, how many calls? Yes, it's only about a minute.
Right.
But the reason the driver called recruiting to get payroll is because they know somebody's going to answer the phone.
Right.
And so you can cut down on that if you have, some technology that could, okay, you need payroll, I'm going to transfer you. Oh, you're interested in a job, let me transfer you to the team. Have that going during the day.
One thing I've heard, one thing that kind of, I think fleet's natural thought is, I need a better, when they think of like, how can I utilize AI to help me in the world of phone calls? I think they naturally lean towards, I want to use it for a better outbound strategy.
They do.
And I think they miss a lot of value of like, will you actually have the amount of leads coming in that you need? And if you could capture those on the front end, you're going to get way more bang from your buck of your recruiters actually making more effective outbound calls than just like loading a list of like, here's a list of a bunch of people who called who have already moved on to another fleet. Probably I'm going to load this and have my outbound agent call these. I mean, I'm not saying that's not a bad, but I think people lean towards that when a better use of that time would be having something that fills the inbound calls that you're missing.
Right. I mean, it's what I let off with, or I wrote here. Maybe it's the level of intent of that moment in the driver. Then, so what's the level of the intent of a driver who called and left a voicemail, or was a lead 2 weeks ago, has gone cold, unable to contact.
Right.
What's the level of intent if I have an AI outbound agent call and just try to stir them back up to get them on the phone again, versus that driver calling at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday?
Right.
Yeah. Which one of those should I focus on? Exactly. And so which one of those is going to be easier to convert for my team? And, and which one is money I'm spending now that I need to convert now? So that's why we think inbound is so critical.
And I will say one of the stats that is in that research that we had up earlier is that drivers felt like if I call and I don't get to a live recruiter, as long as I feel like the call is still valuable, as long as I'm getting the answers that I need, basic answers about the job that I'm interested in.
Yes. I mean, the connection rates, the hire rates from the leads that are produced by our agent, it's across the board. I've seen 8 to 1. 8 to 1, 8 conversations with an AI agent that turn into a hire. Now it's been 16 to 1 with some other fleets as well. So I'm not saying you're definitely going to get 8 to 1.
Right.
But to your point, I've got a highest intent inbound caller.
Right.
Question gets answered. Has many times have no idea they're speaking with an agent.
Yeah.
I get all that information put into my ATS. So now all that automatic activity can happen too. And so that's why we built everything around inbound, higher intent. I can kind of sync up with the ATS, and we can work with recruiters, in terms of producing those leads that get into their workflow faster, as opposed to trying to stir up something that's gone cold.
All right. By the way, chat is live. Q&A is live. If you want to just ask a question or want us to address something, but you don't want everybody to see your name in the live chat, feel free to use the Q&A. I'm going to start the wrap up here because we're getting up upon, I always try to get these to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start the wrap up, but I want to give it to you to kind of have the final word. If there's anything in that data that really stood out to you that you want to call attention to, or if you just want to give us a big summary, you go ahead. This is going to be the final word, unless you guys, if you guys want to take the conversation in a specific way or have a question, feel free to put something in the chat, but go ahead.
The stat that jumped out to me,
Okay.
I mean, and it's page 9 in this research, when calling, which is most likely to cause you to give up on a fleet you're interested in. And the number one answer, 45% of drivers said, if no one answers the call. So you not answering means they're gone.
Right.
And then there's only a 75% chance, or only 75% of drivers are calling twice.
Right.
Like they're moving on.
Right.
So I think that just shows the urgency around inbound and why it's so critical to kind of look at it, examine it, find ways to improve it.
Yeah. And the point I will say, because we understand this, just, the nature of our business, we're making calls, but it's not a reprimand of like, you need to be answering the phone. It's you only have so much time.
Very correct.
And
very
so
true.
you need design a system that allows you to get the most bang for your buck of getting the most people on a call with a live recruiter. And a big component of that is, how do you field inbound calls that a live recruiter can't take right away?
Yes. I mean, it's no one wants to call and leave a voicemail. That's not why the driver's calling you.
Right.
They're not calling to leave a voicemail. They're calling to speak to someone. So
right.
the more you can engineer that and make that connection happen with a person, the more hires you're going to get, the more schedule for orientation you're going to get, the more recruiter satisfaction you're going to get too. So it definitely has an impact on your recruiters loving their job as well.
Well, I think that's the perfect summary for this time on Digging Deeper. I appreciate everybody showing up. We will have another Digging Deeper next month. I'll go ahead and let you know. We're going to be talking about drivers and AI, what they think about it.
Oh, wow.
We're going to hear from drivers themselves on how they feel about AI just in general. Are they using AI to search for jobs? I think we're going to throw in a little job search in there into the research, but that may be for June that we'll look at that part of it. But next one will be on AI. I don't see any questions waiting for me in the Q&A.
Hey, one more. Everybody, get your hands on this research. I'm telling you, we've put out a ton. This is one of the more interesting ones I've seen in a while. Great
It's
job.
right there. I just now noticed I could point to it.
Get the data. I'm telling you, get that PDF.
It'll be below on YouTube, but right
up
there right
or down there,
Yeah.
depending on when you're watching this. Get your hands on this research. It was really, really awesome.
Yes, thank you all for joining us. Thanks, Kyle.
Absolutely.
I didn't really introduce Kyle. This is Kyle Jernigan.
Everybody.
I was supposed to. But anyway, thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on Digging Deeper.